Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's August 12th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and this is going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Friday, so um, we'll wrap up today and wrap up our week, and I won't see you again until Monday. But I did want to say you have to bear with me here. The last couple of days, I've had a little bit of a head cold and some headaches and so forth. And I was really concerned that maybe I might have COVID. My daughter, she does not live with me, but my daughter recently uh, tested positive for COVID, and so she's had it. Not real sick. She lost her taste and smell, and had very similar symptoms to me. And she came by my office one day last week before she realized she had it, and so I was a little concerned that I had COVID, but I do not. I went and got tested today and tested negative. Um, they told me I most likely have a sinus infection. It seems to be going around lately here, so you just have to bear with me. But if you can probably tell my voice is just a little odd if you're used to listening to me, and I'm wheezing and my eyes are watering really badly, so uh, I may have to pause the video. Hopefully, I've had a little bit of a cough, not much, just kind of a dry cough, one of the symptoms of COVID. So I was really concerned about that, but happy to say that I'm not COVID positive and have no antibodies for it either. So at this point, I haven't caught it and I don't have it, but I'm not feeling the best. I don't really feel badly. I just don't feel great. Anybody that's ever had a summer cold, you know how that goes. And this is like the hottest time of the year in Mississippi where I'm at here. I mean, it's 98 degrees, 99 degrees, and probably 95% humidity. So it's unbearable. And when you get a cold in this weather, it is tough. But I think it comes from if you walk outside for even 5 minutes, you're wringing wet, and then you walk in and you're in the air conditioner. And so we go back and forth. And I think that's what causes it for a lot of people this time of year. It tends to come and go, and I tend to have some issues with allergies as well. So this time of year, so I think that has something to do with it. But anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but I wanted to just make note of it in case you noticed my voice sounding a little odd. And uh, but happy to say I do not have COVID. Hope it stays that way. But anyway, let's talk about the chart. I wanted to start off with the daily chart. I talked about this in the mid-morning uh, chart that I post on the website. I told you my target would be the measured move, and you see we got real close to that. Didn't quite make it. We missed it by just a tad there. I didn't think we'd move up there that quickly. I really thought today would probably move higher and kind of chop around. But if we did go higher, this was my target, and believe it or not, we almost met that target in one just today alone. So um, but anyway, I just wanted to put that up there and show you that once we reach that target, we could back off again. Just be aware. Always trade what you see, not what you think. So, generally on most days, there's a couple of ways prices will go, and generally you can get it. You can get a good idea of what prices are going to do based on which way they end up going. But we don't always know exactly which way they're going to go. So as I posted in that midday chart, there were a couple of scenarios of prices making another measured move back and coming back down and testing this breakout area again, or heading up to test the make a measured move. And right now it looks like we're going to make that measured move. So nice. This is a nice strong bar today. So you can see we did trade down a little bit before we turned back up and closed almost on the very high. So let's go to the actually, I think we only closed maybe a few ticks off the high of the day. So, but I'll pull up the other chart. Okay, and here it is. You can see other than we started off in a range and had a little bit of a sell-off early on. And we had a break of that. We really had a close outside and a couple of legs down. And then we spiked out of there and went into this two-tiered channel. And this channel held the entire day. When you get a trend day like this, stay with it until you get that break, and even then you'll probably get a retest on a trend this strong. Somebody posted something in the forum today or yesterday about setups that don't that weren't off the key entry point. Just understand that trades don't always set up off key entry points. Most of your best trades are going to be at key entry points, but they don't always set up. But the question he asked, both of his trades actually did set up off a key entry point. But just understand that the EMA is a minor key entry point, and the midline of a two-tier channel is a minor key entry point. You usually want to see those tested a couple of times or have some other reason to enter as well, but you'll get setups off of those as well. And here's a good example today. There is a setup right here that is not off the key entry point, but this is a strong trend with the likelihood that we're going higher still, and it's a second entry long. It's not a perfect setup, but notice I marked it in green. I wouldn't be afraid to take this trade because it's you can see the new high, and you pull back first entry, and then you pull back here. It didn't break lower, but it still makes a lower high. So when it breaks higher right there, and you can see it rocketed up. And the reason is because people are trying to, they're looking at this like, maybe this is a range day. I'm going to short this. We're a long way away from the EMA. And they might have got a scalp out of it, but if they tried to get any more, they got burned. And there's a lot of people that don't scalp. They're trying to catch the high of the range and ride it back to the other side. And so when it runs higher, it runs all those people's stops. And this is why you don't counter trend trade. You'll see this over and over right here. It looked like we were going lower, and they got that short down here, and it traps people, and they reverse it, and boom, it goes, it shoots up real fast. And the reason usually it shoots up real fast is because all these shorts have to exit, and all the people that were getting short down here have to exit, and it gives it momentum, and then new buyers come in and say, hey, we're going higher again, and they enter right here on this second entry or whatever. And so that's what happens. And so don't be a counter trend trader. Trade with the trend. And a lot of times you can make a mistake and be a little bit early or a little bit late, but if you're entering with a trend, it'll mask some of those mistakes. But if you counter trend trade and you misread it or make any minor error at all, you're probably going to have a losing trade, and it's just not worth it. So not a lot of trades today, unfortunately. Just not many of them set up. So you're only going to see me talk about a few trades. That's the reason I talked about the other, just to, since we had a little extra time today, because it's not going to take me long to go through these trades. But let's just get to the trades. 7 o'clock came, I believe it's just right down through this move here, and then we came back up here. And notice the new high, and you get a first entry and a second entry. So when it turns lower right here, that's a failed second entry long. And you're looking for a possible retest of the low here anyway, because you don't really get a convincing close outside that. So this is the first one. So I like that, trading that failure. But if you weren't quite sure about that, and if you just waited a few minutes, you get a second entry short. Let me zoom in a little more. That's so hard to see. I apologize. There's your second entry short. Beautiful signal bar, closes on its very low. Just go short there. If you take that trade, you probably get a run. You do get a runner, and at the very least, I'd be looking for a minimum or measured leg here. And you can see that's just about where we went to. So you can ride that all the way down here, and I'd exit right in there, and that would have taken you out right before you went into the range. Unfortunately, this is just too much sideways. This is tempting right here, but I just don't think you got enough room to get out. And it just keeps working sideways. You would have gotten stopped out right there, see, before it went lower. It's just not a good setup in there. And of course, we get back over to the trend line, and again, it's just too congestive, and you don't get a setup. It pulls back here and gives you a lower high, but I'm not going to trade that doji. So no setup there. You do get a failure here, but you don't have enough room to scalp out right there. You want it to be back to the EMA, and you want to have room, and you just don't have that there. So no entry there. Somebody asked me about this trade. Yeah, it's a higher low, but we moved too far. By the time you push through the EMA and pull back, I want to see a true reversal, so I'd want to see it come back again, and it doesn't do that. It just pushes on higher. And this is all too congested, nothing here. We shoot up, it goes sideways again. We come down, it goes sideways. And this stuff is hard to trade because you don't get a lot of opportunities. You just get, prices will will zoom for a little bit and then just go sideways and stuff like that. And you usually don't get a good setup. Here we get lucky. We create this first swing and then it comes back and gives you this trap and a second entry long. And that's a nice bullish bar. I like going long there. And that sets up the trend line, and that trend is good the rest of the day. We get another zoom up here, close outside, a couple of moves up, a correction. I like this one because we already talked about it. It's a second entry long. You got a new high right there, first entry, and then you pull back second entry. Even though it didn't break lower, it does make a lower high, so that's a second entry long. It's not a perfect one. It's not quite back to the EMA. It's not quite back to the trend line. Your entry is actually one tick above this bar, and it is an inside bar as well, but it's a second entry. And your stop would have to go below this bar, even though you entered on this one. So it's not a perfect setup by any means, but on a strong trend, I'd probably take it. And I would be looking, at this point, it looks like your first leg is right here. So my next leg would be here, and you could see that gave us a perfect measured leg to the tick. We went sideways quite a bit before we went higher. So that would have been a great target. And then notice we bounced off the EMA again. And that is a second entry long too. This is a double top, and there's no, that's just sideways. So that's the first leg down, then you try to go higher, and it makes another leg down and bounces right off the trend line. Unfortunately, that's not a very good signal bar. You get a higher low here, but again, I don't like that higher low. It's too close to the highs. But when you get that second entry, and notice most importantly, it's a first entry short and a second entry short. And look how bearish that is. That's going to trap some people. I like going long right there when it reverses. And again, you get another runner. And it takes off higher. There's actually another failure right here, but it's too far away from the EMA. You might say, hey, we're off the trend line. And sometimes you might want to do that on a real strong move, but you got to go long at the high day above a triple top of 3 matching highs there, and that's never a good idea. So I just don't think you can enter there. Of course, it zooms up, and then you start this sideways stuff again. There is a little bit of a range right here. You get a failed breakout, but the trend is up, and it's up pretty strongly. I don't see any reason to go short right there. Would have worked, but it's not worth risking. And it runs back higher, and then we're just doing the same thing again, just running sideways. You might have looked at this as a triple top, but again, I don't think you want to short this market because look what happens. There's enough room. If we get through that midline, there's a possibility it goes higher there. And you could look at this as a failed second entry long, but it just looks too congestive. And it ends up, it had to struggle to push back down to the trend line. As soon as it gets there, it's bouncing again. But this is after 3 o'clock, so no entry there. So not many entries today, but the 1, 2, 3, 4 that we did have are very nice trades. Probably all of them would have given you a runner. All of them would have given you multiple points on the runner. And if you catch one of these two, you can probably trade it all the way to at least the other side of the channel, or maybe all the way up, depending on how you want to manage your trade. So, but yeah, not a lot of trades today, unfortunately. Even for a strong trend day, there's just not many setups. This market's still chopping sideways a lot. And, you know, looking back after the fact, I would probably say if you got a good setup off of any of these micro key entry points before you had a break, like a failure, you probably should take them in this market, because you can see they all went higher. But it's just hard to convince yourself of that, especially when you're going sideways like this, because we could have played out and maybe come back. So, but clearly after the fact, this was a strong trend day, and we never even got a break of this trend channel. This is a nice spiking channel up. And we knew what the target was, which was 44.59 something. I can't remember exactly, which is based off the daily chart. So that would have given you a nice target, and you could have stayed with that and stay with this thing as long as you could ride it out to your little heart's desired. So, or until we go into the close. But that's what I saw today. So Anyway, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up. I hope y'all have a great weekend. Hope everybody had a good trading week. We'll be back again to do it Monday, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.